And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Debates. I am your co-host Dibo, again on a solo episode at the house right now. Um, Matt, he was busy today, had a lot of family stuff to attend to, so that's why he's not here right now. Personal reasons. So for this week, again, like the past month, even more than that, we're gonna have me by myself this time virtually, recording at my house right now. So, shoot, man, yeah, same old for this summer. But as we gotta move on, we gotta keep making this content, gotta keep pumping it out. So, hey, it is what it is. But I'm excited. I hope y'all excited as well too. Big day of sports, very big day. Obviously, we had the Euro final between England and Spain that just went down earlier today. Spain obviously winning that 2-1 over England to win their first title since 2012. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. Quick conclusion. Not going to go too into that too deep. Just to give a couple minutes of my thoughts about what happened and just this tournament as a whole. And then after that, some really talk involving Bronny James and his performance so far, especially last night, how he performed in Vegas. Not last night, the other day in Vegas. And then for our main segment, we are going to talk about tier rankings for the NBA as a whole right now, post free agency. So that's going to be the big thing with this episode for today. Again, hope y'all tuned in. Thank y'all for coming and taking the time out of your day to join me in this podcast episode, and I hope y'all enjoy it. So yeah, that was just a quick rundown of the schedule, and as I said before, let's talk about the Euros. Yeah, the European Cup final, international European Cup final, just went down. Obviously, 2-1 Spain. Starting off with Spain, fantastic performance by them throughout this entire tournament. From start to finish, they were clearly the best team in this tournament. This that the main story was the young guys, the superstars already. Lamine Yamal obviously just turned 17 years old. He had a phenomenal tournament, one for the books, and other guys as well. Nico Williams, he was phenomenal too. He's going to be a problem down the line in his career. And going away from the youngsters, the veterans on this team were crucial as well. Guys like Mikel Moreno, Sergio Ruiz, Laporte, Unai Simon, other key contributors as well. They were crucial in their tournament win. And again, I just have to keep on saying it. In a tournament filled with a ton of boring play, a ton of sitting back, especially from all the major teams and major countries, for Spain to have this complete, fresh style of play, a lot of counter-based football, a lot of great counterattacks throughout. Salute to Luis de la Fuente for his coaching, his management throughout the tournament. Made for a very fun, a very exciting Spain unit, and with how much talent they had, they're clearly the best team. They played the best out again the entire tournament, comparing with the other nations. And today against England, we saw that Spain were the clear favorites. They were the better team throughout the match, even though England in the first 15, 20 minutes, they showed their dominance, had a ton of possession. Again, they clearly deserved to win, and the right team won. Thankfully, the right team won because I'm going to keep on harping on while talking about this tournament because this tournament as a whole, I'm sorry, it was very boring. A lot of games were snooze fest. And for the casual viewer, it wasn't really entertaining. It was just very lackluster. And so I'm super glad that Spain won it. I'm gonna keep on saying this. They were a deserved team to win clearly. And this young core with Yamal and Williams, obviously, they're going to be a problem for years to come. And to salute to Spain and their program and how they've been building this team for the past couple of years now, and just to see it all culminate to get a huge major tournament win, their first since 2012 when they won the Euros with that very stacked crew, that very stacked group of guys. It's amazing to see, and super happy for the Spaniards. Now moving on to England, 60 years, man. What, 60 years since? Oh, actually more than 60 years because they won the World Cup in '66. That was their last major tournament. So 62? No. Not 62. We'll just say near 60. Yeah, near 60 years the last time they won a major tournament. Yikes, that's crazy. Harry Kane is a bona fide loser. I've been having this mindset for the past few years now, watching his career pass over time. If you're a team and you have Harry Kane on said team, you are never going to win anything. Simple as that. And a lot of that is due to other determining factors, luck as well, them being unlucky. But Harry Kane has this type of stench, this type of negative aura around him that makes his teams falter whenever the lights shine bright the most. We've seen this before, obviously, with Tottenham in the Prem. Recently, this season with Bayern Munich, obviously they lost the Bundesliga to Bayern Leverkusen, very pretty convincingly too, I might add. And England as well. And this was kind of a troll job with Kane, but his record in big games on the international level with England shows he falters in the brightest stages, whether it's the missed penalty he had versus France in the 2022 World Cup, or even just now in the final today, being subbed off around 60 minutes, providing little to nothing for this England attack. Harry Kane is one of the greatest goal scorers of his generation. He will go down as an all-time great in the sport. But when it comes down to it, in big games, when you need him to show up, he falters. He fails every single time, especially for his home country. And again, it was the same thing. And because of that, and other main reasons as well, England, obviously, the trophy didn't come home, and they're going to go another summer without a major tournament. Speaking on other reasons why they lost this game, Gareth Southgate. Yeah, that man has to go. And there's going to be a lot of coping, a lot of media people, especially from the England side, that are going to keep on saying, "Oh, Southgate, he wasn't at fault here. You should have a pat on the back for the job he's done with this England team, this tournament." And I want to say that's not the case at all. Like, that's completely not true. That's completely false because yet again, in a major tournament where all of their luck goes in their way, they don't play the best ball, but they still made another deep run. When they played a much better unit led by a much better coach, much better manager, Southgate, he faltered. He completely got outmanaged. In the 15 minutes, within the 15 minutes before Spain got their second goal to win the game, England sat back. They took in all the pressure from Spain, allowed a bunch of chances. Lamine Yamal, he had the curler on his left foot. If I can remember, that could have went in, but Jordan Pickford made a fantastic save. And other moments like that, where it's just like, are they really gonna let Spain control the game for the rest of this match before stoppage time? And It clearly looked like it. I think they were playing for extra time, which I don't understand at all for a major nation with so much talent this English team has. Just playing for uh, the game to be tied into extra time is very cowardly. It's very soft, and it shows a clear weakness within your unit. And as the game went on, obviously Spain got the second goal. They faltered. I'm saying faltered a lot. They crumbled. There you go, a different word. Crumbled. They crumbled, and it was just another example of Southgate being completely out of his depth, and it's a recurring pattern. It's a very recurring pattern over his time being the England manager, whether it was in the World Cup, the quarterfinals versus France, obviously the 2020 Euro final versus Italy, 2018 against Croatia. When England with Southgate, when they play against an equal opponent or a team led by a great tactician, ad manager, they get outplayed, they get outbeat, and that's just that summarizes Southgate not being the guy to lead this England team. Clearly, and I can name a few other examples too. Cole Palmer being on the bench for the majority of this tournament. I didn't get that at all when you had guys like Phil Foden sticking up the joint. Phil Foden was bad throughout this entire tournament too. Kyle Walker was another player that was totally bad throughout the Euros this year. I don't know why Trent Alexander Arnold didn't get uh, the starting right back spot over him. I didn't get that at all. It's just simple. Southgate, he can't go with this England team no longer. It has to end. The England FA has to put their foot down and say, look, if we want to be, if we want to prove to the rest of the world that we're an actual serious country, that despite all of our failures in the past, that we can win a major title, win a major tournament, we have to put the foot down and we have to make a choice and say that with Southgate, we've seen this happen before many, many times, and we gotta make a statement. We have to do something different because whatever England, whatever England have been doing with Southgate so far these past few years, it's not going to cut anymore. Like, yeah, all the dramatics, all of these late runs are cute, but to put it straight forward, to put it bluntly, no major tournament wins. Nothing. The trophy cabinet is still empty. It's collecting dust. And for England, a country that wants to win these tournaments, if they're gonna come so close and not win it, and clearly see that we have a manager that does not have the capabilities to lead this team to the promised land, to the finish line, then what are we doing? It's simple as that. There's a clear issue, and the biggest issue can be easily taken out of the equation if they can just let them go. So that's my quick thoughts on it. But yeah, oof. Stay hydrated. It was crazy yesterday too. It was like near 100 outside. Make sure to drink water whenever there's like massive heat, and if you're like staying out, in the open with no shade for a very long period of time, make sure to find any water you can and just drink large amounts of it because Bro, it's starting to me right now, but I feel like I got like mad cramps. Going to sleep the other night was crazy. I was just feeling like aching within both my legs. So I immediately thought that it was because of dehydration. So yeah, man, I'm feeling a lot better. The left leg, I'm still feeling like a little bit of aches in this area, especially around the calf. Yeah, like the calf, Achilles area. But I'm fine, and I'm still here, still kicking it, and still trying to record. It can be damned. I'm not sure that you guys want to hear that part, but that's what happened to me recently. So yeah. Oof. All right. Next segment, we are going to talk about the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, and by that I mean Bronny James, because obviously that is the biggest headline with the summer tournament this year, and that's pretty much the only headline that these media heads are not these media people are talking about right now, and it's a bit unfair because we've seen a lot of players from this draft class, which was ruled as one of the worst in recent memory. Guys like Reed Shepard balling out. Stephon Castle. I don't know why I blanked on his name. Stephon Castle from the Spurs. He's had a great summer league. Um, Other guys too from this class, but Bronny James, obviously the son of LeBron on the Lakers, of course. So he's gonna get the majority of the media coverage. So hey, it is what it is. Me talking about this instead of the rest of the rookies, really. Does it make me a hypocrite? Yeah, but hey, at least I admitted it. So shoot, with that tangent aside, let's talk about Bronny. So earlier this week, he played his first game in Vegas versus the Rockets. The Lakers, they've already played three other games in the California Classic as well. About Bronny, about Bronny. I think obviously for me and 99% of people, they thought that Bronny is clearly not an NBA talent. He needs years to grow and develop as a player. And with what I've seen this summer so far, yeah, it's a fact, 100%. I will say this: he knows how to get into the right spots offensively. He has a very high IQ, both on both ends of the ball. He's a very smart and cerebral player. His overall basketball ability, overall basketball talent is not there, especially offensively. Defensively, I understand people can troll about him getting cooked by Reed Shepard, which, hey man, Reed Shepard was cooking him in that game the other day. But defensively, he is very sound. Can always knows when they hit the right spots. Can stay with this man. Very good help defender. Overall positive so far on that end. But when it comes to his offense, it's really bad. It is really bad. His decision making is not there. Very timid when he has the ball. He can't get by his first man on perimeter. Perimeter. His shot, his shots completely broke. Um, a lot of his shots, with what I've seen, a lot of side rim clanks, a lot of front rim clanks, and I know that Bronny he's capable of having the touch to shoot the basketball with what we've seen in like open practices, open gym runs. But when it comes to in game tape, it's completely not there. It is really broke. It is really bad. Teams can leave him open, and it's very justifiable because Bronny has not shown the capability of being confident with the open shots so far in this league. And I don't want that to be a problem later in his career, but he has to overcome that because with his overall ability as a player when it comes to his physical traits, bit on the undersized, as a guard, 6'2", not the cleanest dribble, especially for his position. He has the dribble package of a wing, and his overall tools, especially again when you're an undersized guard and in the NBA, that's so vital for you to be a very good offensive player. That's a huge problem, man. And I don't want to harp on him too much because, again, he's still very raw, and this was a project to begin with him being drafted in the second round, and him potentially, obviously, going to G League for most, if not all, of next season, as expected. But for Rob Pelinka and this Lakers team, why did y'all give him 8 mil over the next 4 years with that contract? Why is Bronny taking up a roster spot? That makes no sense to me at all. I understand LeBron is there. I understand it's his son and he wants him to succeed. Have him get complete stability with his NBA future. But if you're this front office for LA and you're seeing that with this team, you need all the help you can get to still be a contender with LeBron and AD for as little of time they have as a duo in LA, which organization. Wasting a roster pick on a player like Bronny when he's clearly not an NBA player for him to get that many years on his contract and not be a contributor from day one. That's concerning, and it doesn't seem like a big deal as of right now. But again, you still need all the help you can get to make this team be as much of a contender as it can possibly be, especially for, again, you have the oldest player in the league in LeBron, and for the Lakers, you have such a small window in a very competitive conference in the West to where you don't even know when it's going to be your last year where you're going to be completely competitive, be a complete playoff team. So I don't get that side of this whole ordeal going on right now. But again, for Bronny, I'm not rooting on him to fail. I'm rooting for him to succeed. Obviously, I think it'd be a very great story for him to be a productive NBA player down the line. But as of right now, in the summer league, he is clearly not shown that at all, and he needs a ton of work, obviously, to become a productive NBA rotational guy moving forward. Yeah. All right. Last one, last segment for today. We are going to discuss NBA team post free agency tier rankings. And for both conferences, we're going to start off with the East first. Going into the tiers I made for this segment, I have four of them for each conference, actually five for the East. I think you guys might know what the five for the East is. But for the whole gist of it, we're gonna have contenders, dark horses, playing teams, and tanking slash bad teams for the last tier. So that's the whole gist of it. That being said, got that out the way. We're going to go into the East first. The East Conference, obviously. And we're going to start with all the bad teams, starting with the Brooklyn Nets. I've talked about them before earlier this summer. And for Brooklyn, they arguably have the least talented roster in the entire league. But for their future down the line, it's a great thing because obviously Mikal Bridges, they let him go, got a ton of draft assets from him, get him off the books, completely phase into the rebuilding part of this unit, which for over this past year now, we've been desperately calling them out to doing that. Replacing that for a playing team that has no clear sign of direction, has no future, basically a mediocre team. And for them to push the reset button, start over, and even get their own first round picks back from the Houston Rockets is a great sign. It's a great sign of realizing they were wrong from the front office perspective. Sean Marks and the rest of that unit as well, for them to completely rip the band-aid off, start over, commit to rebuilding. It's very good for this Nets team and their fans because, again, being in the play-in is not going to get anybody nowhere unless you're a young team that exceed expectations for a season. And that's clearly not what the Nets are. So for them to, again, start over, commit to a rebuilding unit, it's a great sign moving forward for them. And for Jordi Fernandez, I'm sure I got his name right. New head coach they got from Sacramento. He was an assistant there with the Kings, uh, labeled as a player developmental coach, and for him to get this roster with young pieces like Nicholas Claxton, Cam Thomas, even guys like Noah Clowney, Jalen Wilson, even it's a great sign, and Nets fans can be excited for this team, way more excited than before. So, moving on to another team that thankfully pressed the reset button is the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan's gone. Great. Zach LaVine's still here and Vucevic too, but they can build up their value as next season goes along and potentially be traded for future assets. So I'm not worried about that. But for Chicago to peel off the Band-Aid, realize they were wrong, and start the rebuilding trend, it's a great sign. And with this current Bulls team right now, having guys like Al Dasumu, obviously Kobe White from his career year he had last year. Patrick Williams is still with the unit. Josh Giddey, they recently got in the Alex Russo trade. Um, Matas Buzelis, they drafted with their first round pick in this year's draft. A lot of young talent. I'm not sure if it's high end talent, but for a rebuilding team, it's great to have a crop of young players who you can evaluate and see if they can develop or not, and see if they can contribute towards winning basketball in the long term future. So that's great for this Chicago Bulls team. I don't know why Billy Donovan's still here as the head coach. I think he should have been fired a long time ago. I think he's going to be fired. He's going to be probably the first person to get fired head coaching wise next season. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But for this Bulls team right now, for them to start over and start a new era of basketball there in the Windy City is a great sign. So they're going to suck. They're going to be clearly bad, but it's not as bad as being a mediocre playing team year after year. So salute to Chicago for making that decision. Next team, we are going to talk about the Detroit Pistons being in this bad tier. Got rid of Monty, replaced him for JB Bickerstaff. JB Bickerstaff, I'm not that high on. I gave him Coach of the Year shouts last year for the circumstance he was in, but as the year progressed, he lost the locker room. The team was starting to fall off, and ultimately the damage was done. And because of that, Cleveland let that man go. And later on, Detroit, obviously, they picked him up as their new head coach. I'm not confident in him and his abilities to coach this Detroit team to a much better record, which it's kind of an easy task because Detroit was absolutely god awful with Mike Williams last year. But I just don't have a lot of faith in JB Biggerstaff. Obviously, with the roster, you have guys like Cunningham, Jalen Duran, Azar Thompson. Hopefully, he can come back from his blood clots he suffered with towards the end of last season. He can come back from that. They got Ron Holland still, Jaden Ivey, although he might not be with this team long term. Marcus Sasser, who I do enjoy as a player, I enjoyed him in his limited minutes last year. There's a clear young core with a few players who have a very high potential, a very high ceiling. Still, even in the East, I just don't think they have the chemistry, even the talent to still compete and potentially get a playing spot within the conference. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris both being new signings be damned. I really don't see it with Detroit. Dang. Ugh, okay. Next team, the last team in the bad tier, we're going to go with the Toronto Raptors. This team they showed flashes of being a competent unit with Scotty Barnes obviously taking the leap, was an all-star last year. You had Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett both coming with this team mid-season last year and again showing flashes within this unit, but just to sheer lack of talent with this roster and just the whole lot of question marks. Who's going to be in that starting five? Who's going to be the starting two within that unit? I just don't see a team that can compete for the playoffs right now as of this moment. It could happen in the near future. They still have the corner star again in Scotty Barnes, but right now I just don't see them being anything more than a straight up bad team contending for a top draft pick. So I think this is the right spot for them, putting them in this bad tier. All right, moving into actual playing teams, we're going to the next year. The next tier. The first team we're going to talk about is the Charlotte Hornets, now led by first year head coach Charles Lee, who they got from the Boston Celtics coaching staff. On Charles Lee, if you haven't seen the recent videos of Charles Lee in camp training with the Hornets players, motivating them during practice, being a very vocal leader. I think for Charlotte, I would not be surprised. And if this young core can stay healthy, obviously the biggest issue is LaMelo Ball, which that has been a major problem in his career, staying healthy for an entire 82-game season. Mark Williams, when he comes back, if key guys can stay healthy with this Hornets unit, I can very well see them competing, even making a playing spot next season. I really, really do. And I'm going to keep talking about Charles Lee because I think he's the guy that the Hornets desperately needed, getting a young, again, vocal leader to lead this young team who have clear signs of immaturity as we've seen over the past. We all know that this Hornets team on their day is a talented group, but it's just their hunger and again their responsibilities as players. It really hasn't shown, and I think Charles Lee is the guy that can lead them towards being a more respectable and more mature group as a unit overall. And I'm not gonna leave this team without talking about Brandon Miller. I think Brandon Miller is a great guy to lead that charge. He had a great rookie year. He had a phenomenal game the other day in the summer league too, Which, hey, the fact that he's playing in the summer league right now with how great of a rookie year he had, it just speaks volumes on his determination and his reliant and his persistence on being a great player in the league as a whole. So I'm expecting a lot of big things to come out of Brandon Miller too next season as well. So for Charlotte, again, I do expect them to be one of those playing teams next season in the East. Another playing team moving along, I have the Atlanta Hawks being in that conversation. They still got Trey, got rid of DeJounte Murray, and I'm looking at this team right now. I see a more cohesive unit compared to last year, especially defensively. Getting guys like Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr. from the Pelicans again in the DeJounte Murray trade. Two guys that bank on themselves defensively, very very hard nosed guys, glue guys within that unit, and getting Zachary Shea with the first pick overall too as well. Another lengthy 3-and-D wing. Again, banks on himself defensively as well. And for this Hawks team, which last year they were one of the worst teams ranked defensively, they were atrocious on that end. So for you to bring in a ton of pieces around Trey, completely restructure the culture with this team defensively, getting a ton of more capable defensive-oriented players as well, along with Jalen Johnson, which he showed a lot of flashes, had a career year last year as well. I think that, albeit they're not going to be a dark horse contender even out of the East, but with this current roster, and if Trey can stay healthy for an entire season, I think they're not going to be an easy out every night. And that alone can push a team towards being a competitive roster and also a playing worthy team for any conference, even. So I have Atlanta in that spot. And for the last playing team in the Eastern Conference, I have the Miami Heat. Some people might say they're still dark horses, but I'm playing just not seeing it. I've talked about them before. Jimmy is not getting any younger. He just came back from a serious knee injury. You look through the rest of this roster. Tyler Hero's still here. He's not a productive player. He's not a winning basketball player. Doesn't play winning basketball. The guard position is very mediocre. You got guys like Josh Richardson, Alec Burks, who they just signed this free agency period. Patty Mills is still here. There's Terry Rozier. A lot of undesirable players uh, in those guard spots. It's looking bleak for Miami. It's looking very bleak. Hopefully, Jovic can take another leap as a player. He showed flashes versus the Celtics in the playoffs this year. Khalil Ware, their first round pick, he's been impressive in summer league so far. Can he step up with this team day one? But other than that, I'm feeling very low on this Miami team. Spo coast or not. So yeah, it's looking very bleak with this Heat team as of right now. Pat Riley, you're under surveillance, and you have been for the past few years now. And this is the pinnacle of him and the rest of this Heat front office's incompetence to get quality players towards winning a championship. This is like the third time I've had to reach for my water. I'm sorry, you guys. Excuse my parched throat. Next one, we are going to dark horses, and to start off this tier, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Still got Donovan Mitchell. Still got Evan Mobley, Kenny Atkinson. I'm a huge believer on. I think he's an upgrade over JB Bickerstaff, especially when it comes to offense schematically on that end. I don't know what they're gonna do with Jared Allen. I believe he's gonna stay with this team for the start of the season at least. If unless there's gonna be some other serious rumors that's gonna happen in the remainder of this offseason, which I don't think is gonna happen at this point, but he's gonna stay with this team. Garland's gonna stay with this team. So they're basically gonna run it back with the same unit they had last season. And with what we've seen from this team, I still think they're very capable of being a solidified playoff team within the East around that top five range. But again, when it comes to them being serious contenders to win a championship, do I see it? I don't at all. But again, they're going to be very competitive. Dalvin Mitchell is going to keep them in games every single night at his peak. Evan Mobley, hopefully, we can see further growth from him offensively on that end, like we saw versus the Celtics in the second round series. Yeah, I can't really say anything much on this Cavs unit. They're still gonna be good, but not great. Next team I have in the dark horses tier is the Indiana Pacers. Another team that's deciding to run it back. They re-signed Pascal Siakam to a long-term extension too. That was their biggest move that they made this offseason. Hey, I mean, they had a successful year. Last year, obviously made the Eastern Conference Finals. Injuries be damned or not. For them to have the mindset of banking on their younger players, like a Benedict Mathurin, like a Jarris Walker, like a Ben Shepherd, to further improve as players instead of trying to make another big splash, I think it's the right move for this front office and how this team is currently constructed. Can we see them going to another deep run again with a fully healthy Sixers, Knicks, and Bucks team? All three of them. No, I still don't. But again, this Pacers team with Halliburton and Siakam both leading the way, them being such a great offensive team, a high tempoed offense, there's still going to be a problem every single night. And when it comes to the playoffs and the 7 game series, you do not want to play this Indiana team at all. So it's completely fair to still have them in this tier when it comes to dark horses. Next one, we are going to talk about the Orlando Magic. I talked about the biggest move they made, obviously, in my free agency video. Them getting a KCP from the Nuggets was a huge get, one of the best moves from free agency this season. To get a proven 3-and-D wing, one of the best wing defenders in the league, a knockdown shooter with a Magic team that desperately needs perimeter shooting was a great addition. With their young core, more progression from Paulo, more progression from Franz Wagner, their two biggest offensive weapons. I think we're going to see that next year as well. Their guard play still concerns me a lot, like really bad. Do I see Anthony Black stepping up as that number one point guard, being in that starting lineup every game? Excuse me. No, I don't see that at all, especially with his lack of ability offensively. But as of right now and how this Magic team currently is, they're still a very good team, a very elite defensive team. And with their two young stars, they're gonna keep getting better. They're gonna keep getting better and better, and including Jalen Suggs as well with that unit too. All right, last one. We're going to talk about the contenders. I'm going to start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. I was thinking about them putting I was thinking about putting them even lower in these tier rankings, but at the end of the day, with a fully healthy Giannis, they're gonna be contenders year in, year out. Do I see them being serious contenders and potentially taking out Boston, even like in New York? No, I do not see that. And for Milwaukee and the moves they've made, obviously them getting Dame, which that was a very bumpy experiment last year as well. Lots of chemistry issues, usage issues as well. And you excuse me, you go down to when you're talking about this Bucks roster and you're seeing how this team currently is, still one of the older teams in the league. Middleton's 32, Brook Lopez is 36. That's a huge concern given how impactful he is for them defensively. It, it's a team that still has the same issues like seasons past. And yes, they have Giannis. Yes, Dame's still there. But unless we can see like a massive leap from younger guys like an Andre Jackson Jr., like a Marjon Beauchamp, I see the same scenario for the Bucks like last year, being at worst a top 4 or 5 team when healthy, having Giannis play out of his mind every single game for them to be competitive, relying on Dame as well too. They didn't make any moves really, and because of that, also with what the Knicks and Sixers done as well this summer, I see them being on that very low end of serious contenders within the Eastern Conference. Okay, last two. I have the Knicks and the Sixers. We'll talk about the Sixers. For Philly, PG, uh, obviously that big signing is crucial for them as well. The other moves they've made, re-signing Kelly Oubre Jr., getting Caleb Martin, re-signing Kyle Lowry as a backup point guard, getting Andre Drummond, filling out the rest of their bench as as a whole. When it comes to their team, it's more talented compared to their team last year, which is very top heavy. But the same question still has to be questioned when Embiid is down. Can they weather the storm and can they hold above water, which is going to happen. It's bound to happen because Embiid, obviously, over his career, he hasn't been able to stay healthy over an 82-game regular season. And it's not going to be as big of an issue like last year when he went down his meniscus injury, which the Sixers without Embiid were completely terrible. They weren't even a playing team without him. So I think that's not going to be as big of a problem this year when you have a guy like PG being the second option alongside Tyrese Maxey. But still, technically, they're still contenders. I'll put them in that tier. But when it comes to them hypothetically making it out of the East and reach the finals appearance, do I see that happening? No. Moving on to New York Knicks. The Miko Bridges signing, obviously, that was huge. Them re-signing OG Anunoby long term, that was big as well. Jalen Brunson, most recently, him committing to the Knicks long term on a very cheap discount, very, very cheap discount. That's big for them team building as well, especially with the loss of Isaiah Hartenstein to the OKC Thunder. The Knicks, when they're completely healthy, in my opinion, they are the clear best team in the Eastern Conference when it comes to potentially stopping the Boston Celtics in the 7-game series. Full stop. When it comes to their length, the overall defense, they have the tools to somewhat match equally to Boston. Now, offensively, and with Brunson's height, obviously at 6'1", and with Julius Randle, his struggles deep in the postseason too over the years, that's a big concern when you're facing up against Boston. But as a whole, with the Knicks, with Tibbs, they're still going to be a very great regular season team. They're going to fight their ass off, night in, night out. They're going to get a ton of wins. And when it comes to them in the playoffs, they're going to be one of those teams to where you're like, yo, we do not want to play you guys at all. We don't want to match up against you guys because you're too physical, you're too strong, you have too much heart, just straight junkyard dogs. So for the Knicks, again, they're clearly my second best team in the Eastern Conference as of right now. But I have another tier that I want to add, and that's the Celtics as their own tier because, again, with all the moves that all these other Eastern Conference teams have made this summer, they still don't have enough to compete with Boston. And for the Celtics, them being able to re-sign and keep their top 6 guys for the next 2-3 years as a whole, it's a massive problem. And with the Celtics, for teams in the East and especially teams around the league as a whole, they can't match up with the amount of talent, the amount of cohesiveness that they have as a whole unit, and coaching as well. It's a mismatch, complete mismatch. So for Boston, I have them at the very top of these tier rankings, and I expect them fully to make it to the finals again this season. No injuries, obviously. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. All right. Let's see. We are 52 minutes into this episode. Good looks, good looks. If you guys are still here, thank you guys for watching so much. Taking time out of your day to watch this episode. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like, follow the YouTube channel, and leave a comment as well. Love to hear your thoughts on this video and my opinions too. That'd be much appreciated. All right, moving on to the Western Conference. Let's start off with the bad tier again, and we're going to talk about the Portland Trailblazers. Why is Chauncey Billups here? I've had my issues with Billups over the past few seasons, ever since he's been the head coach. Clearly not the man when it comes to schematics, when it comes to being a manager, when it comes to being a youth developmental coach. I just don't see him having a purpose with this Blazers team moving forward. They still have a ton of talented youth players, like a Simmons if they don't trade him, like a Shane Sharp, obviously. School Henderson, he's a name. He had a very up and down rookie year, but hopefully he can bounce back after that in his second year in the league. Donovan Clingan, who they just got in the first round, a top 10 pick. So we got DeAndre Ayton, who showed flashes again last season. Can he maintain those flashes for an entire year, though? That leaves a lot to be desired. But as a whole, nothing really much to talk about. They're a clear taking team in the league. They're going to be bad once again, and I fully expect them to be the clear worst team in the Western Conference next season. Next one, we are going to talk about the Utah Jazz, another team that's going to be towards the bottom of very bad teams in the league. I think they learned their lesson when it comes to tanking or not next season. And I believe for Danny Ainge and this Utah team, I think they're going to continue to follow that trend, especially with the rumors of them trying to ship out Lauri Markkanen to another team as well. and Colin Sexton too. But the rest of this roster, a lot of inexperienced guys, a lot of players that need PT to develop, like a Cody Williams, who he just got in this year's draft, Isaiah Collier too, Taylor Kendricks, Keontae George, Kyle Filipowski, a ton of young, inexperienced pieces. And with that, especially in a conference like the West, where you have at minimum 10 teams competing for a playoff spot year in, year out, I think the Jazz, obviously, they're one of those teams where they're clearly not going to be good enough to be on that side. Next one in the bad tier, I have the Spurs. Again, I do like the Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes signings, both of them. But overall, their current roster and how much talent they have, yes, they do have Wemby, who could potentially take another leap, which is very scary due to the potential he showed, the amount of potential he showed last season in his rookie year. Already being a potential top 25 guy in the league already, which is crazy to think about. But when you look at the rest of the Spurs roster, it's just mostly devoted of talent, weak on that end. Hopefully, Stephon Castle can show a lot of flashes in his rookie year early. Denver Vassell, he can continue to develop too. But as a whole, I don't expect nothing much of the Spurs. Wemby's still going to have a great year, but for the majority of the team, I'm not expecting that at all. And the last team in the bad tier, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. And it's kind of a hot take as a whole, but I look at the team, and when you factor in Kawhi Leonard's injury history, and you include James Harden, his inconsistencies as a player in recent years, and his health problems too. If one, even both of them go down, especially long term, it's over. And I know with the moves they've made, bringing in guys like Kevin Porter Jr. from Europe, that they got Derrick Jones Jr., they re-signed Nicholas Batum. They still want to be in that playing tier, but be a playoff team as a whole. But I look through this team, it's devoid of talent for the most part. And again, if Kawhi or Harden go down, that's wraps for them. I'm looking through it, man. I'm looking through the roster. It's even completely healthy. Let's say hypothetically, if Harden and Kawhi both play for near a full season, do you really have the Clippers being better than the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, Mavs, Wolves, Thunder, I said Nuggets, Lakers, Kings, Suns? That's like 8 already. I'd have Houston over the Clippers, Pelicans, Warriors. That's like 11 teams. 11 teams possible that are possibly better than the Clippers. 11 teams that could be possibly better than LA next season. And that's adding the fact that the Clippers could potentially be fully healthy. It's over. The run's done, man. The PG moving to Philly was the nail in the coffin for this unit. And they don't want to admit it, but the writing's on the wall. It's over. This era has completely failed. And with them not being able to own their draft picks for the next 6-7 years because of OKC and the Paul George trade, this team's screwed, completely screwed. It's over, man. It's done. This team is cooked long term, super cooked, and it's been that way for the last couple seasons now. All right, tangent aside, let's go into the next tier, the playing tier, and we're going to start off with the Golden State Warriors. Lack of talent, unless we see leaps from Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Uh, Poles, they're still going to be competitive with a fully healthy Steph Curry, but as a whole, do I expect them to be a serious playoff team? Hell no. They're going to be a playing team at best. They're going to fight for those playing spots the whole season, and it's not looking good. Clearly not looking good, man. I've already talked about the Warriors enough, man. It's not good. It's not good, man. Next team, the Pelicans. I got most of my energy off for the Pelicans in my other video, talking about winners and losers of free agency, discussing the DeJounte Murray trade. They got more talented getting DeJounte Murray. Does the fit work at all with him, Bi and Zion as that big three? Hell no. They have no big depth with Valanciunas being gone and Larry Nance too. So I don't know how they solve that. I I'm so confused with the Pelicans. Their top six, top seven is good enough to stay afloat and contend for a playing spot. Maybe even get like 6 seed at best. But again, weak big depth, weird fit with their three top players. Their best player, hypothetically Zion, he can stay healthy for the whole year. So it's just reeks of desperation, and it doesn't even help them be anything more than a clear playing team in the West. So I'm not sure about the Pelicans moving forward, man. I don't know what they're doing. Next team, the Houston Rockets. I think for their young core right now, it's super bloated. And I think for Raphael Stone, the GM of Houston, I think he has to make a decision really soon to pick which players are going to be here long term, who we believe are going to be high level, high rising players. Because obviously you got Ken Whitmore, Reed Shepard, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., Alpin Shengun, Ahman Thompson, Jalen Green. That is a very deep young core, a very, very deep young core. But as we've seen over the years with certain teams, having a ton of young players, a ton of good young players, it doesn't really lead to huge success. And for this front office, you have to choose. Again, you have to choose which players do we believe are going to be with us long term and are going to be high level players to potentially lead us towards winning a championship. And I think the only players who you can add in that conversation is Alpin Shengun, obviously, and Ahmed Thompson. The rest of the players are expendable. And I'll give Reed Shepard lenience because he's a rookie, still on his rookie contract. So he'd likely be the one that would stay out of that young core if there were to be a major trade. But for Jalen Green, Tari Eason, those guys, I think a future trade would be at play to get an even better player. Although I don't want Kevin Durant to be that type of player, which I don't understand those rumors because getting a guy like KD would further close the window due to his age and the timelines not matching up to each other. But again, I think a huge trade to get another star guy would be heavily considered if they ever want to be more than a young, exciting playing team on League Pass every season. So, yeah. But again, Shengun and Thompson, only two players. Jabari Smith, you can put it within that core too if you want to, but those two are certified locks. But with that being said, Obviously, Ime is still the head coach of this team. The coach has been put in place already. They had the massive lead last season as well, fighting well into the last 2 weeks of the season for a playing spot. And I think they're going to be in that conversation again next season. Next team, we're going to talk about Phoenix. Other than re-sign guys like Bobo, Damon Lee, also getting Monte Morris and Mason Plumlee as free agents, is pretty much the same team. And with that being said, although Mike Budenholzer is a much better fit for this unit instead of Frank Vogel, Budenholzer obviously being a more offensive-oriented coach, the same problems are still there. If Royce O'Neal is your best wing defender, you're in big trouble. Your big three guys, all not good defenders. KD, he's not getting any younger. Bradley Beal's not getting any younger. No proven playmaker at the point guard position to set up this offense, get people easier looks. It's still a mess. It's a very big mess. And if Booker, KD at minimum, if the big three as a whole can stay healthy, then they're going to get enough wins in the regular season to stay above water and fight for a playing spot. But when it comes to being serious title contenders, that's not the case at all. This is still a mediocre team. And you can say the same thing about the Lakers too as well. Same team basically. Delta Connect, I think it's going to be a great player for them in the rotation day one. But other than that, it's a mediocre roster. Minus Bron AD, obviously two top 10, 15 players in this league. But other than that, playing team, lots of issues, limited wing defenders, limited big man depth. The bench is still very questionable, and yeah, I've said it before. I'm not very high on the Lakers, man. I'm not on that board. Um, to round out the playing teams, I have the Sacramento Kings, and this is a newer team. And with one of the moves they've made, getting DeMar DeRozan, I haven't really talked about that yet, so I will now. It's a very low risk move for the amount of money he's getting per year. But with the overall fit, is it a good fit? No. Does it really move the needle for the Kings? No. But even if it doesn't work out, they can still move away from him short term around the trade deadline next season and get more assets to improve the roster. So it's not that big of a deal. But for the Kings as of right now, I think the projected starting lineup potentially would be Fox at the one, De'Aaron Fox at the one, Keon Ellis at the two, DeRozan at the three, Keegan Murray at the four, and then Sabonis at the five. So when it comes to their starting unit, they only got two capable defenders within that team as a whole in both Murray and Keon Ellis. And then for Sabonis and DeRozan, both need the ball in their hands a lot. Both aren't very good guys to shoot the basketball, not good three-point shooters at all. DeRozan slows on the offense compared to the Kings' high-tempo scheme. Again, I'm not loving the fit at all. I think this is just pure desperation from the Kings to just do whatever they can with the score to make it as competitive as they can. I'm not that high on Sacramento. I'm sorry. I think as a whole, they're going to be in that playing in those playing spots again, but it's another serious team where it's just like I just don't see them doing anything in the playoffs if they do make it in the playoffs. Quick second, need to check this. Oh shoot, the Copa America Finals at 6:30. Let's go. I thought it was at 6. That's clutch. Yo, that's really close. Let's go. Um, shoot, my bad. But yeah, let's keep on moving. Dark horses. We are going to discuss about the Memphis Grizzlies to start this off. They're one of only two teams on here in this tier, so it's not going to be that quick. Not that quick. Excuse me, not that long. With Memphis, obviously everybody's going to come back that was injured last season. John Morant, most importantly, he's what makes this team go as a whole. Without him, they're not as good at all as we've clearly seen last season when he was out with this shoulder injury. Taylor Jenkins is a very good head coach. Again, the big three of Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bain is very capable of being a winning roster within the West. Also, you have Marcus Smart potentially being there for a full season. We didn't really see that. He only really played 10, 15 important games all of last season. So for him to still be with this team as a leader, as a great defensive guy, a great glue guy, is very huge for them. When it comes to them being contenders, other young pieces like a G.G. Jackson, like a Rich Williams Jr., very good developmental players, very good rotational players, cheap ones at that. I mean, yeah, just as a whole, shooting is obviously going to be a concern for this team. Luke Kennard's still here. Other than that, Desmond Bain too, obviously, but other than that, not a lot of great perimeter shooters within the Memphis Grizzlies. But with Memphis, they have a ton of talent. Obviously, they got the borderline superstar in Ja. So with that being said, they're gonna be within those contenders within the West when they're completely healthy. So I expect that to be the same for next season. The next one in the dark horse tier is the Denver Nuggets. I might be a little overboard, is what people are saying, but I'm looking at them right now, and the loss of KCP obviously hurts them a lot. You're missing out on your best. Well, you're one of your best shooters offensively, and one that has a ton of chemistry within the starting lineup when it comes to Jokic and Murray in their pick and roll game. And you're going to be without that and a great wing defender as well in KCP, and you're going to rely on unproven wing guys like a Payne Watson, like a Christian Brown, who have shown flashes, especially on the defensive side. When it comes to their offense, they are very limited and are non-ball handlers. So when it comes to Denver and them outside of Jokic and Murray not having a ton of shot creation and overall offense as well, and you add the fact that their depth is so little, they have little depth now. No starting big. They might have to rely on Zeke Naji and DeAndre Jordan now with um, their top first round pick getting a season ending Achilles injury in his first summer league game. And Deron Holmes the second, which that was so tragic. I feel so bad for Deron Holmes. Praise to him. But that was a guy who you were counting on to be a backup five for Jokic. Now he's gone, and you have limited bench depth. You have limited point guard depth as a whole, and outside of Jamal Jokic, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, those top four guys, it is looking very, very bleak for this Nuggets roster. And obviously, they're still going to be a playoff team because they have Jokic when he's completely healthy. I mean, Jokic, he can have mailmen in the starting five, and he can still get you around 50 games a season. But when it comes to them being serious contenders, I just think they took a huge step back. And that really hurts knowing that you had the clear best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and you're squandering his prime and this whole window as a whole with this Nuggets team. So I could be wrong, but that's what I currently see with this Nuggets team as a whole heading towards next season. Okay, the final three in the last tier, we have our contenders. This is really easy to decipher. I'm going to start off with the Dallas Mavs. Got Klay Thompson, got Najee Marshall, still have Luka, still have Kyrie. Lively's going to get better. Still got PG Washington, Daniel Gafford. This is still a very capable contender, and they're going to be right back at it if everybody stays completely healthy. I've talked about them a ton already before this offseason, so I'm going to leave it at that. They're still a top 3-4 team in the Western Conference, and they're going to be within those top contending teams next season as well. Moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, with the amount of limited flexibility they have as a whole, I thought the moves they made, getting Rob Dillingham, training to get him, as well as getting Terrence Shannon, late first round of this year's draft class, I thought those were very savvy moves. Getting other fillers like a Joe Ingles to keep to fill off the bench, get a little bit more offensive firepower within that unit. I think with the Wolves right now, the cohesion, Anthony Edwards, you're banking on him to take another leap, especially when it comes to his playmaking next season. You still got Cat, you still got Jaden McDaniels, still got Naz Reid, still got Gobert. They're going to be a great team next season. With this core, they're going to be at worst a top 3 team in the West, bare minimum. And to round out the contenders tier, we have OKC, and I've talked about them a ton already. I'm not gonna go into it. Got Shea, clear superstar, maybe even a top 5 player in the league right now. J-Dub's gonna get better. Chet's gonna get better. Caruso was a great addition. He's gonna help the defense even more, which is already to begin with. Lou Dort's still there. Isaiah Hartenstein was a massive get, especially when it comes to their big depth. I see them right now as the clear best team in the West. And I think hypothetically, and if we just like picture this in our minds next season, when it comes to teams coming out the West to play Boston in the finals next season, I have the OKC Thunder at the very top of that list. I really do. And I think that's an expectation most people have of this OKC team just because of how talented they are and them already getting the playoff experience under their belt and then potentially getting even better with their secondary guys too as well. So that rounds out, my list. Shoot. A ton of teams gonna run it back with the same unit like last season and into next year. Hopefully we can see a lot more progression with the weaker teams, especially in the East, to make the play-in spots more competitive. But that's how the current league structures as a whole right now, as of this moment. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, man. If you guys are still here, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment underneath this video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be greatly appreciated. We are still at the goal of getting 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel before the summer's over. So if you could reach our goal, that'd be greatly appreciated. And also make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, all the handle @LiftFromTheBase. We have a lot of great content on those platforms, so please check those out. It would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, man, about to sign off. Shoot, it was a fun episode, and hopefully, we can do this again, especially with Matt being here. So yeah, that's it. Peace.